So love was flourishing, everything seemed perfect, and then they left. I have heard this over and over about people coming out on the other side of a breakup with a fearful avoidant attachment style. Now, as many of you know on this channel, I was a fearful avoidant attachment style. And I want to take a moment to first acknowledge people's feelings when they get the rug pulled out from underneath them going through a breakup with a fearful avoidant attachment style and seeing some of these different outputs, but I also want to help you understand the inner world of a fearful avoidant and what they are also experiencing because it's often a painful experience for them as well. So, in this video, we are going to uncover the deep inner world of the fearful avoidant attachment style and reveal some of those deep seated reasons why they sometimes choose to walk away from what appears to be a fantastic relationship, and especially why this seems to happen all of a sudden. We will also talk a little bit about what you can do if you have seen this happen, what your big focus areas can be, so that you can see the needle move in terms of your healing and in terms of any potential of reconciling the relationship, but particularly if healthy. So, first and foremost, we will talk about why the fearful avoidant gets afraid when things become real. And we'll talk about what the deep, deep roots are, and then what you can do to help that relationship thrive if you are with the fearful avoidant while also becoming less triggered by any changes of their behavior. So, first and foremost, what you want to understand is that the fearful avoidant attachment style as a child grows up with a very diverse understandings and beliefs about what love and connection is and what it looks like. They have the anxious side to them on one hand, right? They have the fears of abandonment. They have the positive associations to love and connection. They grow up on one hand feeling like, hey, I really want love. I really want closeness. This is really important to me. But they also grow up with the exact opposite of that. They grow up with times of betrayal or terror or fear or a lot of deep hurt around relationships from things that they see or have firsthand experiences of. And so they have conflicting ideas about love. On one hand, love is beautiful and something to be desired. And on the other hand, love is pain. And so these two conflicting ideas cause them to have this deep inner polarity in terms of how they feel about connection, commitment, and closeness as adults. Now, this is often not a conscious process. If you're familiar with this channel, you see that we talk a lot about the subconscious mind because your subconscious mind is really the one making up 95 to 97% of your beliefs, your thoughts, your decisions, your emotions, and behaviors. And so we have to talk about things there. This is not something that the fearful avoidance says, oh, I woke up today and realized I had conflicting feelings about my relationship because of my childhood. This often is not a conscious awareness until people start going in and doing the work. And I'll say one other thing, if you are newer to this channel, what you do need to know is that fearful avoidant attachment styles are essentially one of four major attachment styles. Everybody has one. And the fearful avoidant has both an anxious side to them and an avoidant side. And that tends to cause them to be hot and cold in the relationships with others. They're like, come get closer, come get closer. People get closer, like, stay back. And they kind of go back and forth over and over again. And it's actually because of these conflicting ideas about love and connection. They have this one side of yearning for it and another side of fearing it. And you can kind of go back and forth many times over. So, what you want to understand here, particularly, is that there are these deep rooted reasons. There's a lot of painful stories that fearful avoidants have because of some of their experiences they have growing up. And what I want to do here for a moment is work to surface some of these stories. So if you're the fearful avoidant listening, or if you're the loved one of a fearful avoidant and just want to understand these things, you can sort of think about what you've seen your fearful avoidant ex or partner say and keep inventory of how this may translate to some of these stories. And this will be relevant because we're going to then dig into how to move around the situation in a healthy way. So how we're going to do this exercise is we're going to just talk about if you are in a relationship, okay, and again, if you're the partner or ex of a fearful avoidant, if they were in a relationship, what are some of the worst case scenario fears you have as the fearful avoidant, or you heard your ex talk about if you are the ex partner of a fearful avoidant? And a lot of the common ones we will hear and we'll see with fearful avoidance are things like, well, if I stay with somebody long term and commit, eventually they will hurt me. Eventually they will abandon me. Eventually they will betray me in some way. Another common story is that love doesn't last. It's not possible. Things always fall apart eventually. Another big one is I will get trapped in a relationship with the wrong person. Now, as we're going through these things, I want you to, and there's still a few other ones I'm going to cover, but as you're going through these things, I want you to understand if you are the ex of a fearful avoidant, this is not what they think about you. This is what their ingrained experiences are around their childhood. So, for example, fearful avoidants often saw their family seemingly be with the wrong person because they couldn't work things out, or because love was painful between the two of them, or because they had firsthand experiences where there were trust violations or broken promises on an ongoing basis, which made them think, love and connection can't last in a positive way. So these are the person's programs. These are their deep rooted ideas about love and connection. Now, you can actually sort of pull out more of these deep subconscious ideas by asking yourself, if I was in a relationship for the rest of my life, starting tomorrow, what am I afraid would happen, or why would that be a bad thing? You can also ask yourself, what would the worst case scenario be that I'm afraid of? And by asking yourself that question in sort of a journaling exercise over and over again, you're actually going to pull out, sort of like by threads, these deep fears that you have about love, that until you resolve these fears and until you understand that love and connection doesn't have to be what you saw in the past, but can actually be something very healthy and secure in your future, until you work through those deep rooted or deep seated fears and ideas, you're going to see that you constantly have this desire for closeness. And then when somebody does get close, that you want to push them away. It's not that you want to push the person away, it's that you want to push your ideas about the person away, your programming about the person away. So, some other meaningful ones that often show up for fearful avoidance are, well, I'm just destined to be alone forever. Love always ends up in fighting and conflict. People will always get bored of each other eventually. And a lot of these ideas come from, again, these fears that people saw growing up. So, when you're looking at them, here's something I want you to know, okay? And this is particular if you are fearful avoidant, but this is also really relevant if you're the ex of a fearful avoidant. Relationships have different stages. So we have the dating stage, we have the honeymoon stage, we have the power struggle stage, we have the stability, commitment, and bliss stages. This is adapted work originally based off of the work of Dr. Susan Johnson. And when we look at this, what you have to understand is that most fearful avoidance, because of this need to push people away when they become afraid, their life cycle of relationships is largely contained within the dating, honeymoon, and power struggle stage. In other words, they often go in the dating stage, make the commitment, suddenly they're in the honeymoon stage, get out of the honeymoon stage, start to go into the power struggle stage, which is something every relationship has, and people can get stuck there for very long periods of time. And then the power struggle stage burns out the relationship, it fails or breaks apart. And then eventually the fearful avoidant starts dating somebody new again and goes back through those initial stages. And that is sort of the container of the life cycle of the relationship for most fearful avoidant attachment styles, because they have a hard time getting through the power struggle stage and coming out on the other side. What the rites of passage are in the power struggle stage of dating and relationships, the rites of passage are to be vulnerable, to share your fears and flaws so that you can connect to somebody in a deeper way without the mask of being on your best behavior, and allow somebody to love you and grow in love in a more unconditional way. So if you think of those early stages, the dating and honeymoon stage, you're often on your best behavior, showing up as your best self. You're often not living with somebody, so they don't see all of your ebbs and flows of the day, all of your habits. And so often you're in a place where, you're connecting to others with conditions attached. And, as we go through the power struggle stage, as we spend more time with people, we have more closeness, we open up more, we let somebody see our flaws, we let somebody know our fears. As we actually express more vulnerability, we give room to be loved more deeply, because we give room for ourselves to be loved with less conditions or without conditions. And that takes us from more conditionally based love to more unconditionally based love. But this is terrifying for people who have deep rooted fears about being vulnerable, deep rooted fears about opening up to somebody, because if they saw a lot of pain in their childhood relationships, it seems like, well, if I'm more vulnerable, I can just be hurt more by the people I'm vulnerable to. And so this becomes something that fearful avoidants really have to work on, because when we can get comfortable in our vulnerability, when we can recondition our stories about love, what you'll see is the life cycle for almost everybody who's securely attached in relationships, when they find that right match for them, goes dating, honeymoon stage, power struggle. They move through the power struggle and hash out their arguments and their differences in a much more effective way that brings them closer together. And then you can think of, rather than dating just always being about the infatuation of the dating and honeymoon stage, and then the pain of the power struggle stage, and then hit the reset button with a new partner, instead, we actually build much deeper roots. Love becomes something much greater than just infatuation or pain. Love becomes something where you actually deeply connect, you deeply understand and accept one another. And there's much more of this unconditional dynamic, which feels safe, which feels like you can trust somebody and they can trust you. And a lot of those fears will naturally melt away when you've established a deep rooted sense of trust with another person, by allowing yourself to be vulnerable, sharing your feelings, sharing your needs, and allowing yourself to receive love at a much deeper level. But if we juxtapose that, when we can't work out conflict, when we can't let somebody in, when we're arguing all the time, when we're in this push pull dynamic and we can't let somebody know us, then yes, love is put into a space where it's basically the sum of infatuation and then pain, because dating and then power struggle and then it breaks apart, right? So a lot of like the view of relationships is based on only half of the entire life cycle of a relationship, but it's a much more than that, much more than that, and much deeper than that, and much bigger than that. But it takes time for the fearful avoidant to learn that. So it really starts with you understanding your painful love stories, right? It really starts with you being able to, even if you're the loved one of a fearful avoidant, what were the love stories of your ex, or what are the love stories that you may be carrying about love that may also be interfering with you if you're anxiously attached or a dismissive avoidant, or even if you have something that's there as a secure attachment style. And what you want to be able to do is draw out those stories and really question them, really hold them to the light. Can I 100% know that this is true? Or is this just this idea that I'm carrying from the things that I saw in my past? And we want to do some work to reprogram. We have a lot of content on this channel about how to reprogram old beliefs, old stories, so we can really set them to rest where in the past where they belong. But I have a course you can check out if you want to do a deeper dive, called the Emotional Mastery and Belief Reprogramming course. And if you're the loved one of a fearful avoidant, some of the things that you can introduce, if you are in a place where the relationship is healthy, if you're having different conversations, if you're thinking of getting back together, first of all, there needs to be discussion about needs in a healthier way. There needs to be a discussion about fears in the relationship in a healthier way, and really questioning those fears together. Like, we will for sure betray each other. Is it true? What are things that we'll do to mitigate against that? What are things that we'll do in our relationship to make sure we're transparent with each other? We're honest, we're consistent. Why are we committed to showing up and being that way? And it's through having those conversations and doing those things that trust will actually be built, right? There's a certain degree of like trust that's given. But a lot of people will say, is trust earned? Is it given? It's both, right? We have an internal trust baseline somewhere for how much we naturally trust, usually because of our pre-programmed experiences from childhood. And then we have this experience of trust that is earned to various degrees, right? So what you want to be able to do is work to build and earn that trust with one another through more vulnerability, through more sharing. And it doesn't have to be done all at once. That's something that can be done slowly but surely. And as we start to see more green flags with one another over time, as we're being a little more vulnerable, getting a positive response, deepening the connection, being a little more vulnerable because we got the positive response the first time. So now we have more vulnerability, deepen the connection. As we consistently do that with one another, we're going to see deep, deep roots of trust being built, deep connection, big improvements in the relationship. And that's where we can actually get out of the power struggle, connect more deeply, and see a lot of those old, painful love stories get left behind. So I just wanted to stop by here and let you know a really exciting announcement, and is that we are doing $1,000 off of our lifetime memberships to the Personal Development School for Life. So I will tell you what's actually included in there. Number one, you get access to all of our different 60 plus courses, everything about every single attachment style, how to reprogram, how to heal. We have courses in there about the 6 stages of relationships and how to navigate each stage. We have courses in there about how to get back together or heal relationships between different attachment styles and all of the steps for reconnecting. And we have all sorts of other courses on boundaries, conflict communication, setting and achieving goals at the subconscious level, seeing how attachment styles even show up in your workplace and how to navigate some of those different dynamics and heal those aspects of your attachment style. There's so many courses in there. But number 2 feature that we have, daily social support groups. So these are small groups that are all included in the lifetime membership. And we do daily events, sometimes even twice a day, where there will be, 10 people or so led by a trained counselor, coach, or facilitator. And you can actually join in there and practice some of the different tools with other members. It's a great place to build relationships, connect with like-minded people, and to really fast track your learning and have that extra support all the time. And number 3, we have daily webinars Monday through Saturday. I do 3 of those webinars every single week. That's a time to come in, ask me your questions. You can come in on camera and we can chat. You can come in off camera and just post them in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable doing. And we have other amazing counselors, coaches, facilitators who also lead other webinars. And again, those are slightly larger groups of people, but it's a great opportunity to connect with like-minded learners who also care about the same things: emotional connection, relationships, and personal growth. So I hope you check it out. We also have all these different discussion forums in there. We have a Facebook group so you can connect with each other there as well. And there's a tremendous amount of community support in an ongoing way at PDS. So I would love to see you on the other side. I hope you join me. And now we'll go back to the video. So I hope that makes sense in terms of the content for today. If you're enjoying this channel, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. And I really look forward to seeing you in future videos.